Nevertheless, there's still something on the other side. Nevertheless, there will be no more gloom for those who are in distress. In the past, now this is Isaiah talking to them about a future hope that would be. So in the past, he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. Now, in case you don't know, of the tribes of Israel, these are two of the tribes that are located in Israel, this northern kingdom that's about to be, conquered by the Assyrians. This is the word of hope for them. But in the future, he will honor Galilee of the nations by the way of the sea beyond the Jordan. Again, Israel. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as a people rejoice at the harvest, as warriors rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. Translation, everything that you're about to experience, all the enemies, all the plundering, all the carrying off, all the defeat, one day that's all going to be wrapped away, and a people who have walked in darkness, a light's going to come. And then we get to the verses that sound a little bit like the Christmas story. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing it and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. So this, prophecy about Jesus, that's going to be fulfilled, 700 years later, is given to a people who their nation is a disaster. It's in disarray. The enemy is knocking at the door. The writing is on the wall. But the Lord, through Isaiah, says, this is what's going to happen. Eventually, the warrior doesn't have the last word. The conquering nation doesn't have the last word. Your future and your hope is seen not in national security or economic security or family stability or your lineage or anything even in regard to your past, but your future lies in the God who holds it and who has promised never to leave you. Back to verse 7, his name is Emmanuel, God with us. So he'll be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. The greatness of his government and his peace, there will be no end. And in case you're wondering, it's the zeal and the power of the Lord Almighty that will accomplish this, not your leaders, not the leaders of other nations, not fate, but God himself, who never gives up on you. And so this language of light and darkness that's attached to the Christmas story really begins kind of in Isaiah's prophecy to paint a picture of people who've been walking in darkness have seen a great light. An author by the name of Fleming Rutledge, who is an Anglican, writes this in regard to Advent. Advent, and this is really part of the Christmas story, begins in the dark. There's a reason I think, that we celebrate Christmas, kind of during the shortest days of the year. It's because, again, tapping into it, people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light, and Advent gives us a few weeks just to prepare ourselves to look inwardly, to recognize that in the midst of dark times, light shows up, and light transforms darkness. A week or so ago, on the eve of Thanksgiving, we went over to Longwood Gardens. Now follow this geometric or this algebraic equation for me. Rachel loves Longwood. I love Rachel, so therefore I love Longwood Gardens. I'm still working on that. Logically, it makes a lot of sense, but. So we're on our way to Longwood Gardens, and it is, I don't know if you remember back the night before Thanksgiving, It was rainy, it was dark, it was just kind of like a yucky, day to be out. And so we crossed over the Commodore Barry Bridge, and we're on that section of 322 that you can't really see the lines, and the rain's coming down. And at one point, I didn't really know where I was until I felt like the rumble strips, and I was like, okay, I got to move over a little bit. And it was cold and rainy, and I thought, you know what, we might get rained out. And I was really bummed. I was really bummed about the idea that we might get rained out. But then an amazing thing happened. We got to Longwood Gardens, and the rain stopped, and everything kind of chilled, and all was calm, and all was bright. And then there was literally just lights everywhere. You couldn't have a more drastic difference between the drive over and then what you experienced once you were actually there, walking around, and the lights that just lit up the night and lit up the experience that was before us. You know that, and you see that inside of this time of year. You arrive home maybe to a house that's dark and cold, and you turn on the lights, and you turn on the Christmas tree, and you put on the outdoor lights, and all of a sudden, you have a home that's warm and engaging, that was once cold. You know what it's like to be in the dark and to fumbling around, and you stub your toe because you kick something, you don't know where you're going, but when there's light, you see and you know what's taking place. I think it's interesting that Jesus would say, in one of the analogies that he would use to describe himself, he says, I am the light of the world. And I wonder if anybody, when he said that, thought back to Isaiah when he said, a people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light. And Jesus says, I am the light of the world. When there's light, there's direction. When there's light, there's hope. When there's light, there's life. It transforms everything around. You see, we've all experienced physical darkness. And I think we all know other types of darkness as well inside of our lives, where it just seems like we don't know where we're going, we don't know where we are. And sometimes it's hard to have hope when everything's dark. I wonder if one of the best images of Christmas is lights, not just because it's pretty, not just because, it's festive, but because it reminds us of how much light transforms darkness and what light does when it enters a dark place.